Oil drops further today on news of the U.S. output boost, and world markets suffer their worst quarter since the COVID lockdown. You're watching the Daily Brief with Forbes. I'm Ramia Faraj. Oil dropped further today following its plunge yesterday. In response to news, the U.S. will release 1 million barrels a day from its reserves. In total, the U.S. will release up to 180 million barrels over 6 months, with President Biden describing the move as a wartime measure that will diffuse Russia's leverage as an energy power. But analysts say while the effort to ease the global supply crisis is welcome, it will only be a stopgap and not a long-term solution. Global investors suffered in Q1 with world markets plunging into turmoil over rising interest rates and the war in Ukraine. Most indices finished in the red after the worst quarter since the pandemic-induced market crash in early 2020. Growth forecasts for the U.S., Europe, and China have all been lowered, and traders are struggling to ascertain the outlook for the next 3 months. The earnings season will reveal the impact higher inflation and the war has had on companies. At least 33 firms, including 2 major Chinese property developers, saw trade and their shares halted in Hong Kong today after they failed to report annual results. Major Chinese developers Shimao Group and Sunac China were among firms that failed to publish their unaudited annual results by the March 31st deadline. This year's trading suspension figure so far compares with more than 50 for 2021. Electric vehicle maker Rivian says the Ukraine war is adding to supply chain pressures and costs, making it the first American automaker to cite the war as a risk. In a regulatory filing, Rivian blamed the war, the pandemic, and inflation for disruptions to and delays in operations. Rivian also listed the conflict as a factor in higher component costs, including battery metals, which have risen considerably. Let's take a look now at today's Forbes Real-Time Billionaires ranking. It tracks the daily ups and downs of the world's richest people. Our biggest loser today is Elon Musk, down $3.9 billion with net wealth of $286 billion. Our second biggest loser today is Jeff Bezos, down $3.3 billion with net wealth of $188.8 billion. And our third place loser is Bernard Arnault and family, down $3 billion with net wealth of $175.5 billion. Check out our website and our social media for all the latest billionaires news. Fully female-led U.S.-based SPAC, the Queen's Gambit, has merged with Dubai-based mass transit startup Swivel. The merger was announced last July. Swivel said at the time of the announcement that the firm would hold an equity value of $1.5 billion after the transaction, turning the Middle East startup into a unicorn. The deal is expected to raise a gross fund of $445 million. Swivel shareholders are expected to hold a 65% stake in the combined firm. Visitors flocked to Expo 2020 last night for one last chance to catch a glimpse of over 190 pavilions and witness a glittering ceremony as the mega event concluded after 6 months. Christina Aguilera, Norah Jones, and cellist Yo-Yo Ma performed at the LCD-lit Al Wasl Dome, the Expo's centerpiece, while fireworks lit up the enormous complex. It was the first World Expo in which over 190 nations participated with their own pavilions. I'm Ramia Faraj. This is the Daily Brief. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.